You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Dan Novikov. Is that proper? Did I mess it up? Sound like I messed it up.
That was pretty close. Hey everyone, yeah, my name is Danila Novikov or Dan Novikov.
So, Dan, tell me a little bit about what you do professionally.
So I've been swimming professionally, I guess, for the past uh 20 plus years. Well, you can't really say that I've been a professional when I was 7 years old, but as long as I remember myself, I've been swimming. I've been a competitive swimming, and the past couple years, I've been teaching people how to swim. But I've been working with people who has fear of water, so I've been trying to cure that fear of water here in United States of America.
So, what types of fear of water are you talking about? Because I'm at least me being from a beach town, a lot like you basically come here, you're not really afraid of the water. I think the main fear is sharks.
Lots of people, especially in New York, that are coming from different parts of the world, such as India, Asia, different European countries that have no experience being in the water at all. So I'm talking about the fear of the water when you cannot even put your face in the water. So those people really want to enjoy themselves and spend the time by the beach or go to the pool and enjoy themselves instead of standing on the deck. So they come into me and they ask me, "Hey, get Dan, listen, can you teach me how to swim? Because I can't manage my fear." And so I have to teach those people from the very beginning. I'm like their babysitter and I don't know, mentor, if you want to call it this way. So
Well, at the same time, you're like, yeah, mentor is probably a good way to put it, but you're basically like, you hold their lives in their hands. A lot of times people are trying to
absolutely,
trust you, like being nervous to
absolutely.
even swim. Like, I mean, I remember taking child swimming classes and stuff, and you felt like that person basically held your life. They could decide to dunk you underwater if they wanted to.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's why I have to make sure that people trust me. So I'm always trying to set up this kind of relationship where people trust you. So I'm not just their instructor. I'm al- I'm also, just like you said, I'm the person who's holding their life in my hands. So yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I do. I make people trust me so that they can do the stuff they never knew they capable of.
Do you think that people kind of like reject your help in a way just because they don't see anybody being able to convince them that they can swim?
I believe that actually those people, they are making the biggest steps in their life, and I'm trying to support them. You know how difficult it is to overcome your fear, and whenever I see person coming with to me and asking to teach him, inspires me a lot, because I really appreciate those people who are not scared of taking the new steps in their life and get out of the comfort zone. That's really inspires me, and I make sure that they can see my inspiration, so that they can see the excitement in my eyes, because I'm really excited to teach those people, because I believe I'm doing something really important for them. Swimming is not just a skill.
It's a
In my
survival skill, first of all.
First of all, it is the survival skill, but my whole philosophy, my philosophy of my swimming school is built around the um, mm, I would say my motto is that swimming is not just a skill; it's the lifestyle. So if you think about it, swimming might become your lifestyle, where you can learn how to surf, where you can take scuba diving classes. Just call it. There are so many different activities that you can do if you know how to swim, if you feel yourself comfortable in the water. So my job is to give those people the knowledge that will be able to improve their lifestyles. So
Do you find it weird that, like, with water, it's seen as a healing property? It's seen as many different things, like basically like the structure for life a little bit. But a lot of people look at it and they see death. Like my great grandfather,
mhm,
he was used to his grandfather throwing him in the water when he was a child and like just teaching, like he couldn't swim and basically him was drowning. And he had a fear of the water, he couldn't get anywhere near it. And me, I was little. I had a bad experience where I almost drowned. I ended up in Florida at the beach. My parents accidentally like took their eye off me for a moment, and where I was getting the water up to my toes, I stepped in a little bit farther, much like exploring little kids do. And
mhm,
next thing I know, there was a sandbar, and I went off the sandbar completely underwater. And I remember seeing like the crookedness of the trees and like kind of like coming up, like coming up for a quick second, then going right back under, coming up for a quick second, go right back under the drowning thing. And most people, you tell them that they're like, "Oh my God, how could you ever get near the water again?" I just totally glossed over it. I was like, "Whatever." I just remember my dad picking me up by my curly hair,
mhm,
pulling me out of the water, and I felt like he was a giant because I was just looking down at this thing that almost just swallowed me up. But I
right.
was always fascinated with it. I mean, it's so relaxing. It's good for the muscles. It's good for the mind.
Right, right. You're absolutely right. Most of the fears are coming from the bad experience that we had in our past lives. We are, well, basically your character, who you are right now. Everything has its origins from your childhood. So once you have a good or bad experience in your childhood, that's going to stay with you forever. So most of my customers that I work with, unfortunately, had a bad experience in the past, whether it's been near death experience or um, seeing someone almost drowning or seeing someone drowning. So, and that's where the fears come from. Oh, and it's pretty interesting. There are, just like I said, I live in New York City, and there are folks from different parts of the world. And for example, people from India have some people from India have beliefs that there are evil spirits live in the water. So some of them are never even trying to enter the water because they know that the evil spirits live in there. um, or some folks from those little island countries such as not Bermuda, sorry, Caribbean sea countries such as I don't know, Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, um, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Most of them never actually go into the water because their parents have always told them that it's dangerous to be anywhere nearby the water. So, if your father or mother or grandfather tells you you cannot be there, well, you listen to them because they're smart and wise. But they're saying that only because they never knew how to swim themselves and they were not capable of teaching their kids.
It's crazy to see because, like, where did your fascination with water even first start? Like, because you're talking about helping others and seeing that spark in them, teaching them something that you enjoy doing. But where did yours first steps doing that came? Because you came from Russia, but you live in New York City,
Right.
so there's not a giant like availability when it comes to swimming in the ocean. Maybe yeah, private swimming, but um, I'm trying to find your fascination link here.
Right. Well, so I'm gonna go back to 20 years, and I remember how I learned how to swim for the first time. So just like you said, I'm from Russia. You're absolutely right, and I was born in this part of Russia that has no ocean or sea anywhere by. So I remember my first family vacation that we took. I was 5 years old, and my parents took me to Turkey. Uh, and right there, I saw the sea for the first time. And what my father have noticed is that as soon as I entered the sea, I was able to float naturally by myself. So when we came back home from that family vacation, my father asked me if I want to go to the if I want to go and take swimming classes. And back then I thought, oh my God, of course, who didn't want to go to swimming pool at the age of 6? So I went to the swimming pool, and uh, it appeared really natural for me. So it was so easy for me to learn how to swim. And I'd say a year later, I had my first swimming meet. I was able to win that first swimming meet, and ever since that, it was really difficult to stop me. You see, in my opinion, it's really important to let the kid taste the blood. So in my case, the blood was the first place, the prize, the medal that I won. And ever since that, I was not able to, quit swimming. So it feels just great to be, number one. Um,
But do you like the competitive aspect of it, or do you just like the enjoyment of swimming?
Right. So it started with the competitive aspect, and then later on it moved to the leisure enjoyment aspect of it. Um, but you know I understand that most of my students that I work with, they will never become competitive swimmers. I understand that, but I like them to have the enjoyment of being in the water. So
Well, you're
we,
giving them a whole nother option to connect, first of all. Like, imagine you go to the beach with your friends and you're the one sitting on shore and everyone else is in the water playing because you've never learned how to swim.
exactly.
You're limiting your whole life. There's 75% of the earth is made of water. At one point, you have to realize that, like, this is not something you can always avoid. It's water's going to be in your everyday life. So, I mean, I've witnessed people that were so afraid of it that they can't even take showers. And that's really, really sad. But they had a really bad life trauma experience, and it takes them
Right.
a really hard, long step to go back to it. But I mean, the overall sense of relaxation you can get from swimming, I mean, I can't believe you did it professionally, like competitively and stuff, because that just always seemed like something like I'm putting competition on a hobby, not in the bad aspect, but like I couldn't see anything being like that much fun and enjoyable. And then trying to take it to the major leagues, like taking like Michael Phelps, for
Mhm.
instance, that guy. Have you seen his calorie intake?
Well, yes, I have. Do you know that this 20,000 or 15,000 calorie intake is a complete rumor?
Yeah,
But
that I knew it wasn't that ridiculous, but
right.
he talks about his breakfast being like a couple egg McMuffins and stuff like that, and then like he does eat a little bit more than average when it
Oh,
comes to his
absolutely.
breakfast, but to
Yeah.
stay so shredded, I'm like, nobody even realizes if you really want to truly get in physical shape too, if you just swim like an hour a day, you'll lose weight. Like that's it. There's something about it. It's also really, really calming, and it's like if you've ever had a stressful day, you don't know what it's like to jump right into the water if you've never been able to swim. Even if it's like 3 feet, just stand up, just relax in the water. The cooling effect it gives you can completely erase a bad day, which I always find my fascination with it. I mean, I was a young child when I was introduced to swimming. My grandmom owned a pool in the backyard. I was out there all the time. As soon as I woke up from nap or whatever, before even breakfast, I'd be out waiting on the deck, like someone come out and watch me so I get in the pool, like getting ready. And like there wasn't a time I wasn't in the water. And I mean, even when I got older, I live in a beach town. The ocean is on one side of me and the bay is on the other. I was surrounded by it. I'm still surrounded by it. And I did jet skis, dealing with the water again, because usually people feel uncomfortable a lot when they walk around in the world today. Like they just feel like, it's really, really difficult. Like you don't feel at home, I guess, than you would if you were in your own house. But when I was on the water, I felt free. I didn't feel limited. I felt like I could do whatever I wanted, whether it was like just the sounds of it too. It brings such a serene effect to it, which I feel like a lot of people do miss out on.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I believe it or not, but I still have the same feeling, and that's what I want my students to experience, to to have that freedom of the motion. I always think of swimming as flying, but flying in a little different dimension, not in the air, but in the water. If you think about it, you just fly there. So uh, I totally agree with you there. The ability to uh, to get into the water and forget about everything for a little while, it just fascinates me.
Do you
I love it.
do you still swim competitively?
I still swim competitively. In fact, I returned to competitive swimming this summer. Um, I had a national master championship just a couple weeks ago. I returned from Orange County recently, and I was able to win the national championship title, 200 IM, 25, 20 years old category. Yes.
So, like, do you find it weird, like from when you first started swimming competitively to where you are now? Do you think that your mind or anything has changed at all a little bit? Because I could see you being like, I'm going to be awesome. Being just being young and kind of getting into it. Like, wow, I'm really fucking good at this. Like, I can actually like swim and beat everybody. Like, nobody can stop me. And then you're kind of older now. You sound like you're still into competitively swimming, but you're more about teaching others as well. And
Hmm.
it seems like you kind of a little bit matured in your thinking than I guess you would when you first started out, where you're like, I don't have time to teach anybody. You know what I mean? It seems
Right.
like now you've matured to the point like it's not all about winning. It's about kind of enjoying the sport in general.
Absolutely, you got it right. The reason why I came back to the reason why I returned to competitive swimming is because I wanted to experience it again. I wanted to experience the swimming meet once again because my last meet before this one that just happened was about 5 years ago, and when that last meet finished for me, I couldn't think of swimming anymore. And I couldn't swim of swimming any longer. So for me, it was so much. I was so tired of swimming 10 times a week and then, trying to do some job, trying to do some home assignments for my college. So I was so tired and exhausted of that. But now, 5 years after that, I felt like, oh man, I really miss that. Well, and I came back. But to be honest with you, one of the biggest reasons why I came back to competitive swimming was because I wanted to be a good example for my students. I wanted to prove myself that if I can work hard enough, I can, get some decent result, which is gonna tell my students that, okay, this guy knows something, so I better listen to him. But yeah, I really enjoyed, right? I really enjoyed right now. I
What are some tips or tricks you use in your coaching ways to kind of help people at least that are not wanting to get in the water at all, have no fascination with it? Like what would you tell them to try and get them in the water? Like just actually literally dip their toes in.
well, the biggest skill you're supposed to have in order to be able to concern those people is the ability to talk with them, to listen to them, um to try to
Understand them a little bit.
absolutely, to try to understand them, because every time before I start my class with someone that is really scared of water, I always ask the person about his life. It's really important, who are you talking to? If you're talking to a let's say engineer, you're gonna have to explain him the stuff one way. If you're talking to an actor, you're gonna have to try to be a little different about the points that you bring into them. So you're really trying to listen and understand people before you actually start teaching them how to swim. But just like I said earlier, the biggest step has to be made by uh, an individual who is willing to start the learning process. It's really difficult to convince someone unless he really wants it.
Do you find
Whenever
that hold on, do you find that people like what age groups are you dealing with? Are you dealing with young children or are you dealing with adults?
I'm dealing with adults, and adults are a completely different animal, because adults are have been living with that fear for
Yeah,
quite
they're
some.
kind of stuck in their ways a little bit. My grandfather would not step near the water. He was like, "No, sir, no, sir." But like children, They're easily learn, like you're able to learn very, very quick. That's why they start the swimming classes at a very young age. Um, but with older people, it's really, really. Do you find it more strange that some of them can be so scared of water that they're screaming and crying, and you're like, whoa, you're 40 years old and you're doing that, and you just see it? Like, are you astounded by it, or are you more on the fact like you understand?
I totally understand that because I've been doing a lot of research on anxiety and phobia. So uh, at some point, people cannot control themselves. They just can't, even though they understand everything. They understand everything that you're asking them to do, but they can't. They cannot handle themselves. It's just something that really uh, holds them on, and I totally understand that. I have to deal with it, and I always tell them, "Listen, you, I understand you, but we have to try to do it this way and the other way. But you really have to understand them."
It's, yeah, you have to put yourself in their shoes.
Absolutely.
What do you have you had some people that will just not learn because of just something they've experienced in life, like being abused, some people being drowned a couple of times, or maybe something like that?
Mm, yeah, absolutely. I've had experience with people who were really bad floaters. I would call it this way. So they naturally can they cannot naturally relax inside of the water. And when you're tight in the water, you're sinking. And when you sink, you can really when you drown, you can't really move anywhere. And so some people get really frustrated about not being able to follow the instructions, and they just give up. Yes, it happens. But everyone is different, Someone learns faster, someone learns slower, but some of them just give up. They think that, okay, it's not for me, I guess.
I think it's crazy the types of like pools they have now, like therapy pools, like just stuff that releases certain chemicals to help relax and help reduce like like can even help with disorders in a way.
Mm,
Severe anxiety. They have a type of chemical that's in the pool that can help soothe you a little bit, keep you kind of mentally sane, and it's really it's a crazy form of hydrotherapy. And
mm,
I find it fascinating when you get to see these pools. Like some people have saltwater pools, some people have, I remember as a kid, water parks, whirlpools. I mean, those are the funnest ones that you just get to be lazy all day and or doing like a lazy river ride. But like, it's fascinating because I liked studying about therapy a little bit, and like whether someone's overweight and they're trying to lose weight, so they get one of those athletic pools, the ones that automatically move, so you have to kind of swim with it and keep up with the pace. It's so inventive, I think, because a lot of people, surprisingly, I think it's like half of Americans don't know how to swim.
2/3 of Americans cannot swim good
That's
enough to
insane.
save themselves. Yeah.
I mean, they know the basic skills, but what happens if you get set in there? A lot of people don't take into account like exhaustion, because when you're swimming, like after an hour, you're like, shit, like I need to take a little bit of a break. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're pretty drained. It's like, but all I was doing was just kind of swimming around. I wasn't doing anything, because you think of swimming as relaxing. I'm like, no, it takes a lot out of your body. You're moving muscles that you probably haven't used before. You don't use on an everyday basis.
Absolutely. Well, being said, saying that, I have to mention that you're actually using your entire muscle. All of your muscles are actually working at the moment when you swim. So just like you said, you're moving. Even when you float, you're still using your muscles. So
So you actually know why that is?
uh,
You're using more of your muscles because of the range of motion you have when you're swimming. It's not like if I go and stick my arm up forward or raise my hand, I'm moving a certain muscle category. But when you're floating in water, your arms are literally going full, like basically 360. Everything, your legs are
hmm
constantly
hmm
doing little circles. So you're literally moving the whole range. That's why it's really, really good for flexibility too. Like if you're going to stretch or something before you swim, I still don't know the stupid story about, you can get cramps if you have to wait 30 minutes after you eat. I feel like that's just an excuse to keep me out of the water for 30 minutes. Because let me tell you, I've never cramped up after eating.
Well, yeah, I've, I've never heard that. To be honest with you, that you can get some cramps if you,
You've
uh,
never heard that little wives'
no,
tale that moms used to tell their kids, like, all right, you have to wait 30 minutes before you can hop back in the water after eating that sandwich. And I'm like, what? 30 minutes? I wouldn't have eaten. You made me get out of the water and eat. You
right,
told me I was in there for like 10 hours. I was looking like a prune and I
right,
got out and ate.
right,
And now I can't go
right.
back in.
Well, yeah, it definitely makes sense why you don't want to go into the water and swim, like swim, like not play around, but you definitely don't want to swim with your stomach filled. But getting cramps, that's the first time I hear that. Well, don't forget, I grew up in Russia, so I guess our parents, Russian parents, were telling something else.
Well, I feel like a lot of times, like I podcast with people in Russia and I work with Russians every day. And, you know, you hear their stories. I'm like, there's not really any water near you at all. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the Russians out here don't swim. They'll go to the beach and dip their toes in. But when they do, it's like they're fascinated, like I've never seen this before. And I'm like, oh my God, like you guys are totally unaware. Like you grew up in a whole nother environment. Like,
Right.
and I'm
Right.
looking at them with like fascination only because like it's so crazy to see. It's like watching a little kid discover water for the first time. They're like, whoa, like this is nuts. And they're like, it's to me, it's such a bland thing nowadays because I wake up and it's right there. But I know when I'm gone and, you know, like I'll be gone for like 2 weeks or something, I'll be like, where's that? Where's that? Where's that air
Mm-hmm.
smell? Where's that
Right.
clean air? I'm
There
like,
you go.
it's just gone. And so do you have a fascination more with pools or do you have a fascination with the ocean?
Um, that's a good question. Well, for me, the swimming pool is
It's
I'd
home.
say it is home, but it's the office at the same time. But every time I go to the ocean, oh man, I that's a big relief for me. The ocean for me is the source of pure energy, so I appreciate ocean a lot. But the pool is, yes, it is home, it is office, but I
I
enjoy
feel like it's
myself.
a little bit more man-made though, sadly.
Yeah,
There's a different feel to it. Like when
it
I
is
go
a
and look at
different
the
field, yes.
ocean, when I
Hmm.
go and look at the ocean or something and I see the waves crash and then go back, I'm like, it's like a washer. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we've all experienced getting hit by a giant wave and then being tumbled in underwater and you feel like you're literally in the washing machine. But like when you look at the waves and you watch them crash and then go right back in, it's like watching something breathe over and over again. And I'm like,
right.
it's so fascinating. But then when you go to a pool, it's like my eyes really, really burn from the
Hmm.
chemicals that are in this water. And then I just found out like last year that it turns out it's people peeing. When your eyes burn from too much chlorine, it's the chemicals eliminating urine that's in the water. And I was like,
Well,
great. Well, I'm not going into a pool for a while now unless I
right,
own it.
right,
But I
right,
mean,
right.
people do it in the ocean too. I always that's always the joke somebody cracks. Like when I did lessons when I was a little kid, because I guess I was advanced for the class I was in, mostly because my grandma owned a pool. So most kids are learning to get in the water for the first time. I'm already knowing how to float, you know, go put my head underwater. My favorite thing was trying to hold my breath for as long as possible, and then I would practice with myself. Like I would get near the side and I go underwater and see how long I can hold it. And then each time try and push it even farther and farther and farther until I was building up like a decent time for holding my breath underwater to where I could literally swim from one end of the pool underwater to the other end and then back and then come up for air.
Right, right,
Like doing those things, that'll make anybody get addicted to it because like you're not only being able to have fun, but you're able to kind of test yourself and see where you can push yourself to go. I mean,
absolutely.
one of the craziest thing is diving underwater and then trying to touch the bottom of like a nice 20-foot pool or something. And as you're going farther and farther and down, you feel like you're not going to get anywhere close to the bottom. You feel like the pressure on your head. Then you finally touch it and then you come right back up. And doing that, like when you see those people that grab rocks, like the heavy ass rocks,
Mm-hmm.
and they're underwater running with it, like trying to increase their endurance, their cardio. And then someone will grab it and go to one of those never ending pools, the ones that go down like 60 something feet. And
Right.
they'll just hold on to a giant rock and just let it bring them all the way down. And they have to swim all the way back up. Dude, that stuff is nuts, man. I would love to go experience something like that. I
Right.
mean,
I think you're talking about the pro surfers training stuff, because I think the pro surfers, they actually do lots of stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing about surfing is a lot of people, like my cousins are from Hawaii.
Right.
They do surfing competitions all the time. And he's telling me, he's like, you don't know what it's like to literally fear the ocean and love it at the same time. I'm like, I think I do. He's like, no, man. When you get hit by a wave and you know that you might not come up for like a minute or two because there's just constant waves being thrown around you, like you don't even, like there's no way you can come up. And I'm like, wow. And actually Kelly Slater was one of the people that invented that oxygen mask thing. So
Oh,
with surfers, they get knocked off their board, because he almost drowned when he was underwater.
right.
And like you see those people and you think, wow, look how easy it is to surf. Like I've been boogie boarding. It's like, no,
Yeah,
you
right.
have no clue what those guys go through. Sometimes they get thrown and they're underwater for minutes and you have to just hold your breath and pray to God that the ocean lets you up. I think the main thing people don't understand when it comes to the water is the fact that they think of it as just something they can easily manipulate or to take control of. Let me tell you
Mm-hmm.
something. That
Mm-hmm.
water will make you its bitch. It will humble you because it has a mind of its own. You're when you go out to sea or you go out into any at least the ocean, it'll let you know that it's there. And it also, you have to ask for its respect in a way. It's why a lot of the Polynesian people, the Hawaiian Islanders and stuff, they have they use a sea spirit, those types of things. They chalk up the spirit of the sea because they know that it has a mind of its own.
Right, right,
It's the ocean can have its good days and its bad days. Me being from Ocean City, Maryland, I like to think I have respect for the water. I usually use it nowadays. I haven't gotten in the water in so long, but like I use it nowadays to tell the weather. A lot of people don't understand that you can predict a lot about the weather from just the ocean.
right. Yeah, yeah. That's what people used to do before the weather forecast on the internet. Of
I,
course,
I
people
think they
just look
should
outside.
yeah, they should go back to that because we're still not right at all now. Like they'll tell you it's going to be sunny for the rest of the week and then next thing you know it's hailing and snowing. You're like, "What happened, man? How could you be that far off?" He's like, I tried."
Yeah. Let me ask you: do you guys have a lot of surfers in Ocean City?
There's a good amount, but it's not, I would consider it real surfing.
Mm-hmm.
Just because our waves don't get over 5 feet.
Right.
But it's good training. It's like it would be like the bunny slope. If you were going to go
Right.
snowboarding
Right.
or something,
Right.
it'd be like
Right.
the first few steps you would take to at least getting up and popping up on a board. A
Right.
lot of boogie boarders. It's mostly just a tourist town. Most people just go in the water and just kind of jump when the wave comes and let it kind of throw you up in the air a little bit and then bring you back down. Uh, my favorite thing was I'd always sit where the waves would break and just let them beat the living shit out of me just for
Yeah.
fun.
Right.
Because
Right.
you get like a nice, like couple 6 foot waves coming, dude. There's nothing like letting it just pick you up and just throw you around because it's relaxing in a way. But like I've been to Hawaii and it's a whole nother venue, dude. Like those people, they have respect for the water there. Like people here don't respect anything about this ocean. They'll throw trash in it. They don't care. They if they got a beer can, they'll throw it right in, which kind of pisses me off because I live here. But at the same time, it's like they're unaware of what's going on around them. They don't have any care in the world besides what's going on in their immediate life. And I just try and chalk it up like you have to go experience water. Like you have to go somewhere where it's truly beautiful. Have you ever been anywhere where it's just the purest form you could ever possibly think of?
Well, I've recently visited California, and man, listen, I'm fascinated by Pacific Ocean. I can, I couldn't leave the beach there. I was just there staring at the ocean, swimming there. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to surf there, but oh man, I love it there.
You usually like this is going to be kind of like a weird question to ask, but do you pull out the I'm a professional swimmer card when you're like around lifeguards? Because I feel like that's what I would do. Because like a lot of them seem so freaking lazy. I would be like, yo, bro, like you're not going to
Um,
save that guy if he goes down. I'm already thinking like I'm going to be 10 steps ahead of you, bro.
I have a funny story about it. So a few years ago, I was chilling with my boys at Coney Island Beach, New York, in Brooklyn, and so we're chilling there on the beach, and I can literally like see the guy drowning, like he's shaking his hands, screaming, going down. I'm like, hold up, my beer, let me go save that guy. And I got to that guy, and he's like, "Hey, that was just a drill. We were doing the drill, but because I got to the drowning guy faster than the actual lifeguard, the lifeguard was fired the same day. So somehow I got the lifeguard fired. But no, I never show off. I actually have a bunch of friends who work in New York City parks as the lifeguards. New York City Parks Department actually supervise all of the beaches in New York City. So I have a bunch of friends working as the lifeguards.
Now, doing what you do professionally, teaching like swimming lessons and stuff, coaching options, do you think that it's really weird that a lot of the lifeguards that have to be CPR certified don't really actually know how to perform CPR in the moment?
I'm gonna tell you more. Most of them don't even know how to how to swim more than three laps. That's pretty weird, and I think this job has to be taken seriously. But yeah, it's pretty weird, man.
Like
I agree with you.
I had to be a jet ski guide, and a lot of people think, oh, you just get to ride around on a jet ski all day. Let me tell you something. That's like that for the first week. Then you hate your life for the rest of the time you're doing it. I did it for 4 years, and I had to stop doing it because of how hard and just draining it was. We went out in any weather condition. Imagine being on the
Oh my god.
water during a northeastern. Okay,
Oh,
I
crazy.
was in the bay where the waves don't get over 1.5 feet, but they were 6 feet at the time. I fell off my jet ski. I had to go over and swim and help this giant black family get back onto their jet skis. They're like 400 pounds, you know.
Oh,
And at that point, what they do is if they can't get you back up on the jet ski, they will tie a rope around you and they will drive you to the beach. They will pull you to
Jesus,
the beach. Yeah. Or if you
Jesus Christ.
yeah, it's difficult and it's really, really hard because a lot of people go out there and they think it's going to be a carefree thing, and that's how people get in accidents. I mean, I was hit by a jet ski going 45 miles an hour. The dude went up me like the front of me like a ramp and hit me dead in the chest with his jet ski. And I was
Jesus.
lucky. I was lucky to be alive. But a lot of people don't. They see that and they think jet skis are just all fun and games. You know, they can race their friends. They can get side by side. When it's very dangerous because
Absolutely, absolutely. You're right. Listen, just like you said earlier, you gotta respect the ocean. The ocean is no joke, man. It's the how should I call it? It's
it's the humble maker.
combo maker. There you go. That's the best way to describe it. Yeah, man, that's true. I appreciate the ocean. That's why I never fuck around when I'm in the ocean. I'm always trying to be, nice and quiet there. I never would go drink first and then jump into the ocean. I'm always respectful towards the ocean because you can play around with it. You know.
I think it's crazy because like when we're learning how to drive jet skis, they take you out on one first and they let you like kind of mess around on it a little bit, but they want you to get the feel for it. Like when you turn the steering wheel or not steering wheel, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit too far to one direction. The weird
Right.
thing is it'll turn, but you got to be careful because you have to predict what the water's doing as well.
Exactly.
The water's a little bit rough and you turn it just slightly, that water wave could come right when you do that and it could hit the grate in a certain way. Next thing you know, it's doing a hard right instead of a soft right, and you're flipping right over the jet ski. You're going right off the handlebars. A lot of people, they underestimate how deep our bay is. Our bay is about waist deep, so they'll go really, really fast and then they'll fly off of their jet ski and land in the water. And a lot of times people hurt their necks really bad because they go headfirst into some sand.
Right.
And I try and tell people, like, look, I drive an Ultra 300, okay?
Mm.
And they're like, what's an Ultra 300? I'm like, this thing's supercharged on a flat water. I used to be able to go 80 miles an hour on that sucker.
For real? 80?
Yes, I
Wow.
could go from one side of my where Ocean City is. It's linked by a bridge. This bridge is about a couple miles. I could take it all the way across to the other side and get like where my house is basically in a matter of a couple minutes. I was flying on that thing. It was so much fun. I actually had a story. I killed a seagull by
Huh.
driving into it on
Wow.
accident.
Wow. Did it hit you or it hit the bike? I mean, the
It
jet ski.
actually hit me.
Um.
We have these things called no wake zones where you have to slow down and you can't give it any gas.
Right.
So I'm hauling ass all the way from the other side of the bay, and I get back to my dock basically in a minute, but there's the no wake zone. So I start slowing down. I see a bird all the way in front. I'm like, well, he's going to get up before I get to him. This bird just did not understand how fast I was going, and he thought he had time. He flew up last minute, and his head hit me dead in my shoulder and almost knocked me off my handlebars. Like my whole shoulder looked like I got shot. I was like, my arm flipped back, and I turn around like, holy shit, that just happened. And I look, and this seagull's neck just snapped and freaking floating in the water. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so bad, but I can't believe that just happened. I just killed a fucking seagull.
That's crazy. Wow.
But like I've fallen off my jet ski going 80 something miles an hour and skipped across the water like a rock. And let me tell you, it doesn't
How
feel
long? How
good.
long? How long have you been? How long have you been flying when you fell off?
Oh, dude. Oh my God. It felt like a long time, but it was probably like a minute. I was skipping across the water, dude. Like it hurt.
Jesus.
The weird thing is the burning sensation you get from it. Cause like it feels like you're getting rug burn, but it's happening like really, really weird. Like, you know, when you skip a rock and it does a little hop,
Right.
hop, hop,
Right.
and then kind of goes underwater. That's what I did. So I skipped and I felt like the whole, like someone just grabbed me by the face and just scraped my face against the ground, then pulled my head up and then did it again, like 2 different times. And I was like, holy shit. And I like stopped and I had to sit there for a minute because my ears were ringing. And I was like, whoa. And I just pulled myself back on the jet ski and I was like, I hope nobody saw that. But I mean,
Mm.
I've had my moments where I've tried to show off in front of a girl. Like, you know, you're on your jet ski, you turn it all the way to the right really, really fast, and then you gun it. And what it does, it creates a giant splash, like a whale
Right.
tail. It
Right.
just like this giant wave of water kind of comes up and around you. You can make it look like you just, you know, like when you stop, all the water is just now falling on top of you, so it looks like rain. And I used to do that. And one time I did it and I flipped like a rock and landed just beside their boat. Like, oh my God, are you all right? I'm like, I just didn't even answer them. I just swam back to my jet ski and drove off. But like, it's funny how you can immediately overestimate water and then you get humbled by it.
Absolutely. Yes. I'd have to agree with you on that.
I mean, what do you plan on doing for the rest of your life? Do you want to keep coaching or do you want to try to start off your own different path?
Well, so far I'm planning to develop my, little school and eventually bring it to the level where, it becomes more than just a swimming school. I'd really like to have as many people as it possible to learn how great swimming might be. We just talked about the fact that 2/3 of adults in the United States, America alone, don't know how to swim, and I believe I really want those people to learn how cool it feels to be in the water. So I want to teach as many people as I can so far. Maybe at some point I will, uh, you know, will take my career to completely different, I don't know, path. But for now, I love what I'm doing, and I'm planning to teach as many people as I can.
Do you think that the reason why people 2/3 of Americans can't swim is because it's not seen as a priority anymore, like something you have to do for survival? Mostly because a lot of people don't think they're ever going to be near a vast, at least situation where they're going to be maybe submersed in water. I think back in the day, it was seen like everybody needed to learn how to swim only because that's how you survive. Like there might be a time you have to go swim for something. There might be time you need that to survive. When nowadays it seems like it's not really a thing anymore. If you don't want to get near the ocean, you don't have to get near the ocean. If you don't want to get near a pool, you don't have to get near a pool. When back in the days, like that's how you kind of had to survive a little bit. You had to
Right.
kind of swim across and get things done that way.
Right, exactly. It used to be the pure survival thing, but we also have to remember that we have a bunch of people living in between those coasts. We have a bunch of people living nowhere nearby the ocean or the waterfront, so they never really consider swimming as something useful. But as soon as they get a chance to go for their vacation, they realize that, oh man, I'm actually missing out right here. And then, when you realize that you're scared to go into the water, you would rather not even go there anymore. You'd rather not even deal with it at all. And then you just go like, okay, I guess it's not my thing.
Like for me, like being a jet ski instructor, I was teaching people how to not fear the water as well. A lot of people like kind of took it ridiculous, like, oh, it's nothing. I'll be fine. I can do whatever I want on this jet ski. But I've had people falling off, like, help me, I can't swim. Help me, I can't swim. I'm just like, dude, stand up. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's up to your waist, man. But there were times where the water wasn't up to their waist, and there were times that they were screaming bloody murder that I needed to get in the water and help them. And I did jump in the water, and there were parts I couldn't stand. And I had been in the bay so much, I know exactly the spots I can't stand, and it's the spots that people down here, they kind of drained it out to kind of help boats get through so the boats don't get stuck. But I've saved a kid from drowning.
Right.
I mean,
And listen, you have to do what you have to do, because whenever people panic, they forget about everything. They do not think rationally. When the animal fear hits you, you forget about everything. You just don't think no more. So that's why it's kind of useful to know the basics to be able to handle the situations like this.
I mean, even a lot of people, like,
That's exactly what I'm trying to do, so that if people end up in this situation, they can, save themselves.
A lot of people look at
panic.
Hey, man,
really
a lot of
kill you.
people look at the fact that, like, they think being a lifeguard is all about saving lives. I've saved a couple lives doing jet skis. I've saved a couple people from accidents.
Rob, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're not. Can you hear me? Hello? It's like a lot of people, like, when they're lifeguards, they think that it's all about saving lives, getting the chicks, doing all these types of things. I've saved lives doing jet skis. Mostly people stopping them from getting in accidents. Actually, after my accident, I experienced PTSD a little bit with jet skiing. Mostly before, like, people let the renters come up to them and ask them a question, not with me. You don't come up to me when there was asking a question. I made you stop 100 feet from me. Like, you're supposed to. That's Maryland state law. But people let it slide. Like, okay, yeah, what's up, man? And the person will drive up to them. I'll tell them, do not come up to me because I get scared. I don't know if you're going to stop or not. I've been hit and it doesn't feel good. It's like being in a car and you get in a car accident. You're kind of afraid to drive for a little while afterwards.
Right.
Well, I've saved a child's life before. I didn't want any credit for it. I didn't want to go around being in a newspaper. I didn't want any of that. What happened was one of our jet ski rental places was near the bridge.
Right.
And where the bridge is, there's a large amount of water current that drags it under the bridge. So, like, if you're swimming right there, you will get dragged underwater. You will go under the bridge. And I see this kid, and he's on his jet ski, and he's like watching his mom trying to, like, dock on the everything, and he falls off and starts going under the bridge. I'm like, holy shit. So immediately I hop on a jet ski and I drive out. Like, it's right by our dock, so it's not anything far. So I go out onto the water, and I immediately just pulled the ski up to right where he was. My jet ski's already stuck in the current going straight to the bridge now because I'm not driving anymore. The power's off, so now I'm just floating to the bridge. Right before I hit the side of it, I just grab him, pull him right back up, throw him right back on my jet ski. I'm like, you're all right, man. And mom's thanking me and everything. I'm like, it's not even a problem. Like, you don't have to thank me for, it's not my job. It's a human need to care about somebody. I have the ability to be able to help you in a situation that you have no help in. I've been stuck in a current before. I know what that's like. I know the fear you get when you're not in control of your life anymore. The fact that it's all in the matter of the ocean, you have to try and swim out of it. A lot of people just try and swim straight back to the sea, or not back to the sea, back to land. That's the worst thing you can do. You have to swim with the current a little bit. You have to kind of fight with it. You got to work at an angle out of it, or you will get dragged out. We've had the Coast Guard have to go and capture so many people that get dragged all the way out to sea. I mean, miles out there, because they think that they can test the ocean, swim as far out as possible, then try and swim back. Yeah, that's not a good thing I recommend for anybody. I mean, dude, it's so scary when you're out in that water. Not even just the fear of sharks, but just the fear of, like, not being in control of your life anymore.
Do you guys have a bunch of stories about sharks attacking people?
Very rarely we do get a shark down here. The weird thing is, I've witnessed on my jet ski, and then 50 feet from me, there was a tourist, like giant tourist boat, and they were taking pictures. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I was like, why are they fascinated by a jet ski? And I turned around, and there was a fucking hammerhead right beside me.
Oh wow, how
I have
big?
never seen a shark like that. And I've lived here, and I've never seen a shark like that. That was like one of the very few times. We'll rarely get a shark in our waters, only because they come here to have their babies. So somehow, passing the ocean, when they get to the other side of the city. So on one side we have the ocean, and on the other side we have the bay. And the bay is basically marsh swamp that got flooded up and actually broke our beach in two. And so it's just marsh water basically. Like if you take your foot and stick it into the bay and go all the way and try and touch where the sand would be, it's just mud. It's muck.
Right,
You'll lose flip flops. You lose all that. We had a fucking hammerhead in there, dude. I'm on my
crazy.
jet ski, like, why are people taking pictures of me? And I look and I'm like, holy shit. And it's a hammerhead just right there having its babies. I'm like, no renter, fall off your jet ski right now. They're like, what? I'm like, everyone, we're going back to the dock. Don't look in the water, please. Nobody, like, in my head, I'm like, nobody fuck around. Nobody trying to like splash their friend, because if you flip off into the jet ski near the shark, I have no idea what's going to happen, because it's trying to have its babies, and it's probably very protective and primal right now. So that was a scary moment, dude. But we've had great whites that have somehow gotten down here, and we have giant fishing tournaments all the time down here. But like, dude, hearing a shark down here, it's like rare and unheard of. Like, people are on it, like they are recording it live, like tracking it, making sure that it's going, like being able to warn people. But people truly lose sight of something. I see something like that, I'm like, that's a fucking monster. But it's awesome, because like, if you look at a hammerhead, dude, that thing is like something out of a straight up kid's comic book.
Right.
Do you have a do you have really like a fear of anything from the ocean, or are you just all in love with everything from it?
Um, I can tell you that I have fear of drowning in the water, because for me it would be the worst possible death scenario ever. So that's why I'm always careful
It'd
when
be
I'm in the
ironic as
ocean.
hell if you died from
Imagine,
drowning, because you're just like,
imagine.
he was a professional swimming champion and he drowned. You're like, what? But
Exactly.
if you think about how ironic it would be if you drowned in a pool, yeah, that'd be pretty fucking ironic. But
Yeah,
if
that
you
would,
drowned in the ocean, people would be like, yeah, because it's the ocean. Like,
right.
it'll make anybody, it's foe or whatever. Michael Phelps, I thought it was ridiculous. Everyone gives him shit for talking or eating frosted flakes and then smoking weed or whatever. And I was like, why do you care, man? He's professionally good at swimming. You know how hard it is to fucking swim? Like, you have to have
Exactly.
your body angles in a certain way. You have to learn how to stroke properly. A lot of people just think it's like, oh, I can just swim, just paddle, paddle, paddle. It's like, no, dude. It's also really fascinating when you see babies, and you like, have you ever seen the videos of like people throwing like a baby into the water and immediately what they do?
Right, right. And they just swim. Yeah, I've seen those videos, but I've never had any babies uh, that good swimming with me. Usually I have crying, not understanding what the hell they doing in the water. But yes, I've seen those videos. Yeah, for sure. Also, you guys out there who think that swimming is easy and being Olympic champion is just a regular thing. It's the discipline. It's coming into the pool every single day, couple times a day. Plus, you have to watch after your diet. You have to watch your regime. You have to being a professional swimmer is, you have to give up all your social life. All you do is train, sleep, eat, train, sleep, eat. Imagine going like this 4 years nonstop, every day, no breaks, no social life. You have to give up everything. So it's not easy. I was never an Olympic swimmer, but the amount of stress that you go through, the amount of uh, the amount of normal life that misses you out is just crazy. So it's really difficult. It is hard. It's not easy at all.
I mean, a lot of people don't even know where swimming really came from. I mean, it's been throughout history. Like, people have been swimming. There's been people that swam across like the English Channel. Like, there's swimming has been around for so long, dude. I mean, there were drawings of people swimming in Egypt. They found
right?
drawings of people believed to be from like 2500 BCE. Like you hear that type of stuff, like it's something primal in us, like just hunting and things of this sort. People have had a fascination or an ability to know how to swim. And you hear that, and then you look at how 65% of Americans don't know how to swim. And then you
Well,
like that's so weird. I'm just like, it's in us all. I think it just lies dormant and people just choose not to access it, either over fear or the ability of failing at it. And I'm like, it's not something you can fail at. You naturally can swim. I think the whole thing is you cannot let any emotions arise in your head, which like much like you probably face like doing competitive swimming. If you're thinking about something bad, your swimming's going to be off. Like people are going to tell. Like, why the fuck is he spinning around in circles? And you're like, oh shit, like I can get my head in the game. I literally have to focus at the moment. I mean, how many times have you been super close to winning and then just missed it because you had like a thought go through your head?
oh man, tell me about it. Swimming. Once I lost one dude by 100th of a second. Can you guys out there understand what is it to lose for 100th of a second? I'm not trying to show off. I'm just trying to make you think about how many inches. It's not even an inch. It's half of an inch. I don't know. It's 1/4 of an inch that the guy touched the wall a little earlier than me, and it was what like nail size, and it divides you from being a champion and from being good but not good enough because you're second.
Do you find it like it always kind of scared me how I would see swimmers like just keep their head underwater and paddle until they hit like the wall and like but they some of them usually know it's like it's right there so they'll like be like and they'll brace it. But I've seen swimmers go and they're doing the overhand stroke and their arm, like their elbow, hit the fucking concrete, like where the thing is, and their arm just snap. And I'm like, oh, how could you be so focused for that to happen?
Right. Well, it doesn't usually happen with professional swimmers. It happens to swimmers who know how to swim, but not good enough. But yeah, it happens. It might happen. I've seen a couple of times.
What is the worst thing you've ever seen competitively swimming?
The worst thing, well,
Like either an injury or just someone like experiencing something?
right. Well, the worst thing I've seen was the guy who dislocated his shoulder. But it looks pretty creepy. But if you think about it, it's not nothing
Well,
crazy.
how did he do that?
Well, he was swimming one of the worst events you can ever imagine, which is 200 fly. And then you see the guy swimming, everything is fine. And then the next moment, you just see his arm being displaced out of socket joint. So it looks pretty weird, but he's like, it's okay. It happened to me before. And he just pulled his shoulder back into the place. And that was it. So he
What's
was.
the hardest stroke do you find to do? Like, do you have a certain one that you stick by? Do you do the butterfly stroke? Do you do?
Well, my stroke is IAM, which stands for individual medley. When you do 1 or 2 laps of each stroke, you start with the butterfly, you proceed to backstroke, then breaststroke, and the freestyle at the end. Well, that was my stroke, but I think the most challenging stroke for me was backstroke. I guess backstroke was uh, the most difficult one for me. I was never good at backstroke.
Like I know the oldest stroke has to be like the breaststroke because even though it's like kind of like seen as the slowest one, they're like that's the one that's been on the ancient drawings. Like if you look at the Egyptian drawings, they're showing like forms of that. And, I find it fascinating because I got really into deep sea diving. I've never done it. I've just kind of had a fascination with it. Not the ones you do like with scuba tanks, but the divers that can hold their breath for like super long
Right,
times.
right, right.
Mostly because they were training themselves. Like you hear about like some divers can hold their breath for like 10 minutes and you're like,
Yeah.
how is
Yeah,
that possible? And
yeah.
I forgot what his name is. He was in the Guinness World Records for something. His name's Stig something. I cannot pronounce
Uh,
his last
I,
name.
I I know where you're talking about. Plus, you more than that, you have to remember that besides just holding the breath, they also go down, and you have to remember how big is the fucking pressure down there. So your head feels like it's gonna explode any
Yeah, your
minute.
eyes are gonna
So
pop out of his head. But
exactly.
this dude can hold his breath. The world record. It was like 22 minutes.
Yep.
You hear
Yep.
that, you're like, there's no fucking way. Like you're
Exactly.
holding it for a minute and a half, and you're already seeing black basically because you're like, like you feel like you're slowly slipping away. But I'm like, a lot of people are like, I'm gonna go drown myself. You know how difficult it is to drown yourself?
Well,
It's
it
pretty
is.
fucking hard, dude. No, because you start getting close to it, and your lungs, like your body starts immediately forcing itself up. Like you start, I think it's when you hold air in you, or you have that type of thing in you. But when you release all of your air, you
That's when you
complete.
go down. Yeah.
That's when you can sink. But the
Exactly.
fact is, to stay down there, your body naturally starts doing things to try and pull itself back up. The crazy part is when people drown, it's because they come exhausted to where that reflex or that nature doesn't kick in anymore.
Exactly, absolutely. Yes, you're right there. Also, a bunch of people drown because they start drinking the water. They fill themselves up with the water, and they just, they don't have no air, and that's what brings them down. So the ability to breathe is really important
How
there.
scary was it for you to watch Jaws?
Well, not too scary to be honest with you because I love sharks. So for me, it was like, wow, a shark. I love sharks. So for me, it wasn't scary at all, to be honest
Dude,
with you.
I love the movie Jaws, but I watched it at my buddy's house. He had a projection screen, and we were
Oh,
sitting in his pool at night, and he had no lights in his pool. You don't know
well,
the
yeah,
mind fuck that goes
I,
through your head at that point. You're like sitting there, and like it's the beginning scene. It says Jaws, and all you hear is dun dun. You're like, oh shit! Like you start feeling it. You feel like your legs are underwater. You're like, there's a shark gonna grab me right now. I'm in a 3-foot pool. It doesn't matter. I'm dead. It's okay. I'm just gonna convince to it. I'm eating goldfish in the inner tube, sitting in a pool. And I'm sitting there like, there's no lights on. There's no lights outside. All we do is have this giant projection screen and surround sound system, and all you hear is, ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. But dude, it's so freaking awesome, like seeing that stuff on movies, seeing like professional surfers and my cousins that do it professionally and win championships and stuff. And I'm like, man, it's awesome because you don't know the feeling you get when you hop in water. And just to know that there's people out there that haven't experienced what it's like, it's mind-boggling, but also how we all can kind of connect with it. You know what I mean? It's like watching a sunset. It's for all of us. No matter if you go through something, it's a good form of therapy, man. And coming from like seeing people that struggle every single day with like some type of problem or something, just to be able to find a form of relaxation. People always talk about, let's go to the beach, whether you're getting the sun or the water, it's just something we can all connect to.
yes, absolutely. I agree with you on that.
Is there anything you want to promote towards here at the end of at the podcast?
Yeah, sure. I can promote my book that I wrote. The book is actually on fear of the water. So anyone who shoots an email for me at danswimcoach@gmail.com will get a free copy of my book. So feel free to email. I'll send you the copy of my book.
Do you what types of things do you focus on, like about the fear of swimming? Just how there's a lot of people out there that don't know how to.
Absolutely, yes. So I always focus on the proper form. So when you have the when you have the proper mindset and the proper form in the water, you can easily learn. So um, I always tell people that they have to take their time. If it feels that it's too freaking scary for them, so then slow it down. Start if you can put your face in the water. You don't have to push yourself and get your head underneath the water. Start with your mouth, then dip your cheeks in the water. Then
They
put
literally say dip your toes in the water for that reason.
yeah, there you go. There
Do
you go. So you go little by little.
Do you think that Americans, or not just Americans, but more people should know how to swim?
Absolutely, definitely. The, I really want to as many people as possible to learn how to swim so that they can experience that joy of being in the water, so that they can rent a surfboard and go surf, so that they can go and jump off the cliff into the, I don't know, lake, ocean, whatever. There is so much fun, man. So go ahead and explore the seas, the oceans. There's so much there's so much stuff you can see.
Is there anything that you can kind of enlighten people on who are very, very scared of swimming? Just telling them like you have to kind of conquer that fear, because it is something you do have to, I believe you should have to learn at least just to be comfortable around, and but also be able to respect it.
Um, you're gonna respect yourself so much if you actually gonna even try to overcome the fear. So it's all about trying to overcome something. You know, those who don't try, they will never succeed. So you know, at least you can tell yourself that you tried. So go out there and try. Uh,
Thank you so much, Dan, for being on my podcast, dude. It was awesome talking to you. And stay tuned for another episode of Out of the Blank podcast.